Hello, everyone. Let's just meditate for a minute or two, wait for the other students to show up. This is the first Tuesday of July, so we're doing, Venerable De Hong will be doing a Dharma talk and a guided meditation every Tuesday, every first Tuesday of the month. So let's just wait for a moment. Welcome, everyone. So last time, in the first Tuesday of June, we had Dr. Kwok, and Dr. Kwok will be back in September. And so there's sort of a reversal here. So why Dr. Kwok is not here, Venerable De Hong will be standing in for Dr. Kwok. All right, so Dr. Kwok, Venerable De Hong will be doing a presentation first, right? Correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and then a meditation. All right.
Yeah.
So welcome, Dr. Venerable De Hong.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So I will start with a short talk. Give me 1 second, let me get this set up. So to start off with the talk, I would like to share a couple traumatic stories of two persons inside the prison that I have been working with. The first ACE, this is what we call adverse childhood experiences, ACEs. So for those of you who can read, I will read it out loud. It's quickly. This is pretty short. I don't know how I ended up living with my grandmother. What I can tell you is that the constant absorption of abuse, for whatever reason she felt, was a cause for abuse. For instance, she would beat me for educational purposes. Basically, he didn't do well in school. Say the word, spell it, then say again. If I forgot to say the word, at the end, she would beat me. At school, I had a hard time focusing and was easily distracted. Of course, being without parents, without love, and constantly getting hit, chances are he never felt safe. And chances are he probably had certain issues related to learning. And, not to mention probably ADHD. Anyway, let's continue. My teacher would inform my grandmother, and I was always expected abused, but just didn't know when. Sometimes I would think she forgot, and right before I go to bed, she would beat me. She began stripping me of my clothes and beating me with different objects as I grew older. Anything from belts, brooms, and telephone cords. This was his grandmother. And then here's another, the first one, this individual, he has been incarcerated for 18 years. He is eligible for parole next year. This person has been incarcerated since 2010. He will also be eligible for parole hearing next year. I'm sorry, let's go back to the first person. I have known this person for 8 years. He never said anything about his childhood abuse. We met once a month because he was in Blythe, in one of the prisons in Blythe. He never said anything. He would just meditate with us, and he said he was fine. Until now, he transferred to another prison. He just sent his file to me a couple weeks ago. This person I met back in 3 years ago. And now he also transferred to another institution, and he started writing to me. And I read this too. By the time I was 5, I was completely abandoned by my mother, and my father was never in the picture. My mother's addiction to crack cocaine exposed me to active drug use, violence, and molestation. Basically, he was sexually molested. Consequently, I was placed in the foster care system. Upon being placed in my second foster home in 1988, I would experience more instability in the home. Additionally, I would be exposed to more substance abuse, domestic violence, and gang violence. I would also be physically and mentally abused and yet again molested. Because of all this damage, before the age of 18, I felt worthless, stupid, scared, and rageful. To cope with emotions of fear and anger and feelings of insecurity, sorrow, betrayal, sadness, and disappointment, I developed destructive beliefs. These beliefs would justify and manage and encourage the antisocial behavior I would exhibit to feel better. For example, I believed that I had nothing to lose. I believed that people with authority over me would hurt me. I believed that if you harm me in any way, then I should physically harm you. I believed that no one cared about me, and I believed that I had to get what I wanted or needed in any way possible. So as you guys look at these two stories, they were horrible. And unfortunately, they end up being incarcerated. One thing that the thing is, our system, our federal and state governments don't have policy to educate parents or help parents, who struggle with substance use and who abuse their kids. I'm pretty sure this is intergenerational trauma, and most likely their parents were poor, and both of these two individuals were not raised by their parents. With that, I will have more on this as we continue in the near future. Anyway, back to the topic, tonight's topic, which is on this book, Exhausted, Abundance, and Immeasurable. Back in May, I spoke of the loving kindness, which requires mindfulness and attention, and there was a section on Q&A on vipassana, samatha, death and dying, rebirth, guilt, forgiveness, jhana, and loving kindness. Tonight, to go along with that, is the topic is the 5 hindrances. So I believe that we talked about this probably 2 years ago when I share the topic of mindfulness meditation. And so what are the 5 hindrances? They are sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness, and skeptical doubt. These hindrances happen literally to every meditator, and more so with those who suffer from childhood abuse or traumatic experiences, either at work or at home or in marriage or in friendship. So when you meditate, this sort of thing will come up. I can share with you that when I first meditate, this was probably more than 12 years ago. I constantly broke down and cry, and I didn't even know why. And it was because of my childhood experiences, the abuse that I suffered when I was a kid. So my advice for those of you who are meditating is to, try to contemplate into your past, your childhood, your teenage years, or even your past, recent past, or right now or now. If you have any traumatic experiences, make sure that you process and heal from them. Otherwise, it will be a struggle as you continue. Okay? So here, the Ajahn Pasano, he wanted to say is that whatever hindrances that you noticed, just make a note of it. Oh, this is a hindrance. How do I deal with it? Instead of like complaining or blaming yourself for it. One thing, I mean, this talk, like he literally tells us to say how to recognize, how to look for the signs in the body. How do you feel in the body? And then there are ways to counter their hindrances. So basically, with sensual desire, like how does it feel, especially in the body? And with ill will, aversion, how does it feel in the body and the kind of energy? Sloth and torpor, how does the body feel? And I can tell you guys right now, earlier at 3 p.m. when I was reviewing these slides, I was very sleepy. But I kind of like pushed myself to sit through it for half an hour only. And so the tiredness either of the body or the tiredness in the mind or the boring in the mind. These two contribute to sloth and torpor. So keep that in mind. Sometimes when you think that when you feel sleepy, you think that it's the body. Sometimes it's because of your mind, not necessarily your body, not the physical part. And then fourth is the restlessness and worry. How does it feel? And then doubt, doubt here refers to also doubting yourself, that you couldn't do it, or doubting the Buddha's teaching, or doubting the practice or the method. So keep that in mind. What the Buddha did is when asked by Ananda is that he suggests that as we practice meditation and mindfulness, it's necessary to direct our mind to something uplifting. One thing that I know for sure that works well is the smile. At the beginning of a sitting, smile. Because when you smile, it makes you feel good. It also gives you this sense of alertness. And throughout until you get to deep concentration, when you remember, smile. Because our mind, we have a tendency to think or to be lost in thought, and that's normal. So when you smile, you actually remind yourself, hey, I'm meditating. So what the Buddha basically suggests to bring loving kindness, the practice of loving kindness or the mind of loving kindness to counter all these five hindrances. So when it comes to ill will and aversion, because it could make you feel pleasant. When it comes to sleepy or bored, bring loving kindness to it. Or when you experienced restlessness and worry, fidgeting, right? then bring loving kindness, find a sense of happiness and joy from within, and just get your mind around this, around love and kindness to counter all these five hindrances. One thing that, one approach is to bring the mind back to an object as an observer. Because when we experience restlessness or ill will, whatever it is, we tend to get involved in the story from the mind, from these two hindrances. Then let it go, come back to the breath, and try to be an impartial observer. The other approach is to bring something wholesome, skillful, pleasurable, and satisfying to your mind. And again, I would say smile gently. It will help for sure. Or the other thing, or when you experienced, or when you noticed or have this central desire, here Ajahn Pasano implies the sexual desire, because you don't want to visualize some kind of sexual object or image, because it would interfere with your meditation practice. Then you want to let go, let that go, bring loving kindness to your mind to counter the sensual desire. So basically, when you're sitting, when you struggle with something, then ask yourself, is this a hindrance? Is that an obstruction to that which is truly skillful? The other thing that also nourished or being fed, that is feeding the five hindrances, is our ignorance. The Pali word for it is avijja. The meaning of ignorance is the lack of pure true knowledge and awareness. It's literally like you were in a dark room, you couldn't see anything, you tripped, you fell. That's what ignorance implies. It does not mean stupid. So keep in mind, so if you experience something, struggle with something during meditation, then try to cultivate this, try to be more mindful and examine this, whatever it is that you struggle with, and just so that you can pinpoint to what it is. So here the Buddha gives this analogy, basically similar, as to, let's say, if you experience sexual desire, it is almost like someone in death. There is always something hanging over you. Or even sensual desire also implies, let's say, if you attach to certain piece of music, when you meditate, that piece of music constantly comes up. Or if you think about food, or like the smell of something, that is also sensual desire. So that's anything that pleasures your five senses, that is always hanging over your mind, your practice. Then when it comes to ill will, the Buddha compares that to somebody who is sick and has a fever, because you can get very, very edgy. Again, to counter that, bring loving kindness, wishing yourself well, wishing yourself healthy and happy, to counter ill will and aversion. Then sloth and torpor. The Buddha compares that to someone in prison, because you're not free, you get edgy, even you couldn't sit still. Um, my to me personally, my struggle from at times is this sloth and torpor. This is my major. I don't have any doubt about the Buddha's teaching. I also don't have doubt about the practice. My major is sloth and torpor. Sometimes I have worry and restlessness because if I have so many things to do, that would also interfere with my meditation practice. Then when it comes to restlessness and worry, the Buddha compares that to being slaved, because you cannot do what you want. You cannot own because you are being owned by somebody. Again, to counter that, bring in practiced loving kindness, just so that you can feel joy and happiness from within. Then lastly, skeptical doubt. The Buddha compares that to someone who has property and possessions and carry all of this through a desert, and that is fraught with danger and robbers. Again, you constantly look around, you feel here, you don't feel safe. That's the issue with doubt. Again, by bringing something skillful, something wholesome, which is loving kindness, just so that you can trust the practice, you can trust in your ability to sit through a session. So what with this? With these five hindrances, the Buddha used the another example of a bathman. What it is during the Buddha's time, people use a kind of clay for soap, because I guess back then they had no soap like we do now, right? So to take a bath, people use this piece of clay and they wet it and knead it and permeate and pervade on the body. And when it's rubbing against yourself, if it does not drip, then you are doing it right. The same thing with practicing loving kindness to counter these five hindrances. You'll be able to notice when you experience, let's say, aversion or anger or hatred, right? Then direct your mind to loving kindness gently to eventually to counter this anger or hatred that you experienced or feel. I'll let you guys read through this one. So again, when it comes to the recognizing the five hindrances, again, this is how to be in the present moment as you are sitting. When you notice something that you struggle with, breathe in, breathe out, smile, or bring in loving kindness. And if it still exists, or if you're still going through it, then ask yourself the following questions. How do I work with this? This is not to my benefit or well-being. What's skillful? What is a skillful way of relinquish this? What is a skillful way of letting go? So here you can be innovative, try different tools to counter any of the five hindrances. Anjan Persano cited the example of sensual desire, basically sexual desire, right? So to counter that, we contemplate on the unattractive nature of our body, on the foulness in our body. Then when with loving kindness, you can say, what is the point in this constant attraction to something that is always breaking down, is never comfortable? Why do I keep trying to make it happy? Give it out. That right there, when you say that, then you can say, oh, okay, I can let this go. I don't have to attach to this body, or I don't have to cling to this sexual desire. When it comes to aversion, then you can say, why do I set myself up in opposition to everything? Why do I keep getting into arguments with it? But when it comes to, when you bring loving kindness to it, then you can say, I can let that go. Bring again the same thing to sloth and torpor. Just try to be kind to yourself, to be loving and caring, to deal with any of these five hindrances. But with here, so quickly with sloth and torpor, sometimes it, because it's a sense of tiredness or sleepiness, then you can sit with eyes open. Usually for me, I sit with my eyes closed. Or sometimes it helps to say stand up when you feel sleepy, or do some walking meditation instead of sitting. It's also another way to counter the hindrance of sloth and torpor. With restlessness and worry, again, with bring in loving kindness. Because with restlessness, sometimes our body cannot sit still. Then bring your attention, your awareness to any sensations in the body that you can obviously feel, such as the sensations in your hands, or if you are sitting, feel the contact between your buttocks against the chair or the surface that you are sitting on. Be creative in terms of finding something to counter it. So basically, the more skillful you are at becoming aware of how the five hindrances work and how you can let them go, then when it comes to sitting, your mind can get settled more quickly. So that's the end of the discussion. Let's move on with our meditation. Let's get settled into your posture, whether you are sitting or standing or lying down or walking. Start with taking some deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth, and literally blow the air out all the way out until you feel that your stomach is empty of air. This is one way to release the tension in your body. It helps to let go of your thoughts, thinking, planning, fear, worry, and whatever that has happened since this morning, let it all go. Put them aside. Remind yourself that you are safe. Even you can tell your brain that you are safe. So your brain does not have to be in hypervigilant mode. Once you're done, then breathe normally through your nose. Allow your body to settle. Make sure that your posture is proper. If you are sitting, feel the contact between your posture and the chair or the surface that you are sitting on. Start with a smile. Notice how you feel when you smile. How that feeling gives rise to the physiological sensations in the body. Then notice the feeling, the sensations are fading away or disappears. Then notice what you feel next. Let's continue with the sensual practice. First, noticing your environment, basically the space around your body. You can make a 360-degree circle from your left or right, then the space above your head, the space underneath the chair. And use your body to feel the room temperature, but not your mind to make the judgment. With your awareness, let's check in with your mind, see how busy it is with thoughts and restless wandering around, possibly easily distracted by your thoughts or noise in your surrounding. Your feeling, your emotion, your mood, your attitude, all of this affect your thought process, your behavior. Your sense of hearing. Notice that your hearing consciousness is always on. Your sense of seeing, smell, and taste. These three senses during meditation are not active because there isn't anything to trigger them. Then your sense of touch in the body, noticing any sensation or tension or physical pain throughout your body. The sensual practice helps you to stay grounded and centered anytime, anywhere. So you don't get distracted easily or feel overwhelmed when you're being triggered. Let's bring your awareness to the breath and stay with the breath. Let's use this time to process the thoughts in your conscious mind. Indirectly, this is one way you cultivate concentration. The thoughts that are coming up are from your past experiences and planning, and they get stuck in your mind unless you get rid of them, those that are not useful. And some thoughts may get pushed into your subconscious or unconscious mind. And you have no control over what comes up. But you have the power, this power of awareness or mindfulness, to quickly recognize each thought for what it is and just let it go. So exercise your power. The more thoughts you let go, the stronger is your power. First, see if there's any negative self-talk, judging, hating, upsetting at yourself. Let it all go. Or if there's anything that you said about people, let it go as well. Anything toxic that people said or did to you, just let it go. Let go of the people as well. Don't let them live in your mind rent-free. Images of your loved ones, you can put them aside. If you notice any craving for pleasures, for your senses, scenery, sound, taste, smell, and touch, even ideas. Or if you notice you have any clinging for someone, clinging to a relationship that is not working or doesn't exist, be aware of it. And don't let craving and clinging affect your mental health. You see that the thoughts continue to come up one by one. Try your best to let it go. Those that are not useful. Eventually, you notice a pattern of the thoughts that come up, a pattern of your thought process, or the way you think, and also a pattern of your past behavior. This is what we call insight. And from your insight, you can figure out how to improve your behavior, your thought process, so that it will benefit you and your family and those around you. And in a sense, you are becoming your own therapist. So continue to allow the thoughts to come up. Let go of those that are not useful, that can affect your mental health. And as we continue, let's see what you experienced at the moment in regard to tonight's topic, the 5 hindrances. Whether you experienced sensual desire, ill will and aversion, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, or doubt. So notice your mental state of mind and how your body feels in regard to your state of mind. If you feel tired and sleepy, how does it feel in the body? The energy level is probably low, or is it your mind that feels bored? If you experience ill will, anger, or hatred, how does the body feel? Lots of energy? Again, bring loving kindness to it. Treat yourself with loving kindness without conditions. It helps to smile. Is there any restlessness or worry? Your body may not sit still. Then feel the sensations in your body, be it in your hands, your feet, or your breath at your nostrils. Or if there's any sensual desire, piece of music coming up, a sense of smell, beautiful scenery, or if there's any sexual desire, then contemplate on the foulness of the body, but without judging, getting upset at yourself. Bring loving kindness to it, to the practice. Or if there's any doubt about your ability to sit through the session, doubt about the Buddha's teaching or instruction, let's sit in silence for the next few minutes. Let's continue to be aware of your state of mind and how it can affect your body. Let's check in with your mind, see how it is, perhaps settle, clear, less reactive, less judging, less wondering, less talking. Your feeling, your emotion, your mood, your attitude, your body, your posture. And notice the qualities of mindfulness or your power of awareness, concentration, patience, loving kindness that you just cultivated. With that, I hand it over to Danny. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, Venerable. I really like the way you share with us the letter that one of your students who
Mhm.
are incarcerated. And I think that's the tip of the iceberg in terms of how many of those who are incarcerated start with a history of child abuse.
Yeah,
Uh, at the very minimum, a lack of a loving family, right? And
yeah.
so I want to talk about how you yourself comes from that. I mean, you talk a great deal about that in your various interview and also in your documentary that
Mhm.
you grew up being the oldest son in the family, but yet somehow still today, I'm not sure that you understand it, but somehow you were abused by your father, very violently. And in some way, you talk about even your mom. You couldn't quite understand that she would stand for that. That she never came to protect you,
Mhm.
at least not in the way that you wish that she had. But somehow, after all this, you forgive them. You don't really hold any hatred in your heart.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah, not anymore. But I think it goes hand in hand. I think that and that's the thing that we talk about is that um our practice has both sides to the coin. One is to learn to manage our own emotion, understand where you say the unwholesome emotion comes from and how to manage them. And the other way is that we practice metta, loving kindness,
Mhm.
right? And I've seen in the past when I was a volunteer at San Quentin before the epidemic, um, I see how many people who volunteer in the prison. When I look back, I think they are doing it for the wrong reason, which is that in order to heal their own trauma, they
Mhm.
want to find someone who's worse,
Yeah.
and then in a way kind of elevate themselves
It's that
by
sense of
thinking,
ego. Mhm.
yeah, yeah. And I wanted to just point it out because not only is this the wrong way, but it actually can backfire. And I've seen it backfire because at the pandemic, then I realized that those who practice meditation, those are supposed to know better, um, they couldn't handle the trauma, the new trauma, because they never actually um, look within.
Mhm.
It was just really, it's no different than they're just distracting themselves, basically, right?
Yeah.
It's the same as you were saying that how many people, when they meditate, they fall asleep, either because they're tired or they just don't want to deal with it, and their
Mhm.
mind just shut off and they fall asleep. So I just want to, I wanted to come to the point, which is that what you and I had talked about in the past, in that when we practice metta, when we practice loving kindness and compassion, we start with a sense of gratitude.
Mhm.
We start with a sense of gratitude. It's not that we're looking for better victims, but
Mhm.
that we in the worst scenario, in your case, for example, even with all the abuse that you endure from your father, and in the end, I think you still feel grateful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's our gratitude that we practice compassion. And I just want to point out, when we put this hand together like
Mhm.
this is a universal gesture.
Yeah.
It transcends all religion. I just want to point out that this hand gesture has two very distinct meaning. Is to say is thank you, which is gratitude, and it's also blessing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing that we do. We can either put together to say thank you, or we put it together and say, may you be blessed.
Mm-hmm.
And so the two ties together, that um, when we want to help someone, either physically or spiritually, in the sense of wanting to bless someone and wish them peace and health and all that and happiness, it comes from a sense of gratitude that we are thankful first. And then with that, then we want to share that with someone. And so I just want to point that out. It's just a thought, that like we talk a great deal here about practicing the both sides of the coin, practicing our mindfulness as a way of understanding and managing our unwholesome emotion. And then at the same time, talk about loving kindness and compassion. And I want to make sure that people understand that when we say talk with that, we're like in your case, when you go and you spend all your time in the prison helping others, it comes with the sense of
Mm-hmm.
gratitude, right?
Yeah.
That
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in spite of everything, you feel that maybe everything has a reason, and you're who you are because of it. It's
Right.
just
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm grateful, and I told the folks inside the prison, both men and women, that I'm grateful for them. Otherwise, I didn't know all the issues that I had and carried
Mhm,
over the years. Yeah.
mhm, mhm, mhm. It's like looking yourself in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the sixth patriarch, when he talks about vipassana, which is looking at yourself,
Mm-hmm.
he uses the word looking at the mirror. He actually uses the word as looking in a mirror
Mm-hmm.
and look at yourself, but not be attached to it.
Correct.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Isn't that true also when you work with the student inside the prison that they turn around, like they manage to understand the reasons for a lot of things that they did, and then they slowly turn around and not only heal themselves, but heal others and heal their family and all that. It also comes from a sense of gratitude.
Yeah, yeah. I think they call that the turnaround moment or something.
Hmm.
Usually it would take them after getting into prison, it would take them average, I would say 6 years to turn around.
Hmm.
And because
Hmm.
when you, let's say for most of them who committed, violent crimes, they get sent to level 4 prisons.
Hmm.
And those prisons have no programs other than, hey,
Yeah.
going to pray. Nothing else to
Hmm.
do. So they continue with their destructive behavior.
Hmm.
And then a few years later, somehow something would come up and they got it, and that's how they slowly turn around, and that's how they stay on that path.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and usually that's when I come in. So those are
Hmm.
people that I know, they have been incarcerated for some 10, 15, 20 years. Some of the ladies have been around for 30 years.
Hmm.
Yeah, and they stay there, and the meditation helps them to cope with not just their past trauma, but the daily trauma that they experience on a daily basis. Yeah.
Because in the past, we talk about how the work that you do in the prison not only help the incarcerated, but it helps with his cellmate who
Mm-hmm.
might not be a meditator. It
Yeah.
helps even with the guards,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it helps with the family who are outside of the prison,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's just tremendous how that sense of forgiveness and gratitude and then which overcomes the violent nature can can actually propagate.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know what's the term for it, the effect, right, or the consequences of the result of the practice uh, penetrate or reverberate to their
Mhm.
family or
Yeah,
echo.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The multiplying effect.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Hmm.
you so much.
Thank you.
So you'll be back
Next month.
in August. Yeah, in
Yeah.
August, and
Hmm.
then September, it would be we'll
Joanne.
go back to
Hmm.
Dr. Park. Yeah,
Dr. Cole.
Kayako. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let me turn off the outside first.
Thank you,
Thanks again.
everyone. Hmm.
Thanks again. I thought I turned